Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We have a Transformers crossover review for you today. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover Megatron H.I.S.S tank. And this is an absolute callback to my childhood, but it is not without its flaws. But let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll start with that packaging, which looks absolutely sublime. I love this packaging. We'll start with the Transformers side over here. There is Megatron with that incredible artwork. He is the Decepticon Megatron H.I.S.S tank. Over here you have the G.I. Joe artwork. That H.I.S.S tank looking great. And then you've got Baroness down there. And then you've got the little fake window. For those of you who remember, you used to have the clear panel where you could see the figure that was coming with the vehicle you were buying for G.I. Joe. Over here on the side you have Megatron H.I.S.S tank, that artwork and that G.I. Joe logo. On the back you've got some really cool product shots. So you've got that G.I. Joe logo, Transformers logo. You have Megatron H.I.S.S tank, converts in 28 steps. Baroness right there, crossover, G.I. Joe Transformers 2022. And you've got that artwork there. Everything looking great. You've got some information down here, and you've got the sad baby because baby said it's double trouble. You've got Cobra and the Decepticons. That's no bueno. Alright, Transformers over here, Megatron in both modes, Decepticon Megatron H.I.S.S tank. Up top, you have a couple of product shots, and then G.I. Joe right there. And on the bottom, crossover, additional information if you care to read it. So that is it for the main packaging, but there is also a secondary packaging that comes with this figure. So this is the box within the box, and it's not a lot, but I did want to take a look at it real quick. So right over here you've got G.I. Joe Transformers 2022 crossover. Nothing on the sides, but on the back here you have Cobra Top Secret Files. So I will pause it there so you can read that. And then up top, G.I. Joe Transformers, down low G.I. Joe Transformers. But I just wanted to show that because I thought it was really cool to have that box within the box. So now that we've got the ginormous box out of the way, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at everything that came inside the box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box. And we'll start over here with your little sheet of warnings and your instruction booklet. And you are now left with what you see here. And he comes with an okay amount of accessories, and then of course with the extra figure. But let's go ahead and start in the middle here. So these are the guns that go on the turret. They're exactly the same thing other than just being mirror images of each other. So let's just focus on one and we'll take a look. So it's just molded black plastic. Nothing too special there, but they are blast effect compatible, so that is helpful and very welcome. Hollow on the backside, so there's some cost saving going on right there, but normally you're not going to see that, so not that big of a deal. But you do get two of those. And then you do get his fusion cannons. So this is painted. So I believe it is molded in gray, but it is painted black. And it's a nice gloss to it. Not a lot of detail on there, but unfortunately it does pick up smudges and fingerprints pretty easily. So sorry if there's fingerprints on this thing, but you're going to get them. It's inevitable. Same thing here, very hollow on the backside. So some cost saving going on there, but you're not going to see it. So from what you can see, in the main area, it looks pretty good. I would have liked to have gotten some detail back there, but at least you do have a little bit of detail up there, and then you do have a port that is blast effect compatible, so you can have some big boomers coming out there. All right, and then this is the back of the tank, also used as the shield in bot mode. So you've got that Cobra insignia right there, and then you've got a little bit of sculpt work going on, so you've got some rivets, and then you have this lattice type grate look down there, and then you've got those pegs where you can set your figures. And then on the inside you do get a little bit of detail as well, so it's nice to see a little bit of that. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I like it. Alright, and so now you are just left with this. So this is the figure, the G.I. Joe figure that comes with the crossover. So this is Baroness from Cobra. And this is very much reminiscent of that original packaging from the 1980s. Many of these I opened and few of them I kept, unfortunately. She will not be opened, so I'm going to have someone else volunteer in her stead when we need to use the figures. So, but let's go ahead and take a look at that artwork right there. It looks pretty good. And then on the back side, you do get that dossier. You get that little bit of background right there on Baroness. So pause it and feel free to read it if you want to. You've got it in many different languages. And then you've got that artwork down there. So yeah, looks really cool. I really like that they added the figure here. So that's everything that came with Megatron himself. So let's go ahead and dive into his details and take a nice close look at this guy. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is the H.I.S.S tank Megatron. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at those details. And we're going to start right up here with the head. And that is definitely a traditional Megatron bucket head sculpt right there. No doubt about it. Looks good. This entire area right here in general, this just screams Megatron. There's definitely no question as to who that is. Coming on down, you've got that crotch area right there, and then you've got this little kind of yellow area. He's a little bit see-through there, but we won't talk about that. And then coming on down, you've got these nice hip missiles, hip guns, very reminiscent of kind of that Beast Wars Megatron. So you've got kind of a cool look there. And coming on down, not a lot to speak of here. He gets pretty plain down in the legs, but he's got a little bit of sculpt work in there. So let's go ahead and open those up and you can take a look. Now he is hollow, but you can see in there that they've at least made it look kind of interesting, I suppose. And then you've got sculpt work right here on the inside as well. And then coming on down, you got those Megatron feet. And let's go ahead and move over to the side. And you can see you've got that heel spur sticking out that is part of those tank treads. Good sculpt work in the tank tread part as well. And then these are those missiles, and you can swing those up if you want to take a look. See that sculpt work up under there. And as we come to the side, you can see he does sport himself quite the backpack. So that's a lot of his tank hanging off the back. It's not awful. And I like the fact that they've incorporated the use of the backpack with the ability to put a Joe figure right here so you can have somebody in that turret operating it. So, is he perfect? No, but it's not the worst thing. All right, coming over to those arms. Now you do have these huge shoulder pads right here that you can just lift up out of the way. We'll do that and take a look at the arm detail there. So much like the legs, arms have a lot of hollow going on in them, but you do have some sculpt work inside of those to make it look not so awful. I do have a little bit of a paint transfer issue right there, and then the undersides of the fists are not painted, they're just that molded gray. Then coming around to the outside of the arm, just a little bit of sculpt work. I do like this. That's pretty cool. And then as you can see, you've got a port right there where you can use blast effects, or you can use the weapons and plug those in right there just like you would with the fists. All right, so coming around to the back, this is Megatron from the back, and yeah, this is not the view you're going to want to use. He's simply not pretty here. So you're definitely going to want to see him from the other direction for sure. So taking a look here, you do have those hollow areas on those shoulder pads back under there, and then up underneath you can see he is pretty darn hollow there. If there would have been some way to have panels right here to at least solidify that up, I think that would have gone a long way. Legs back here look okay. You do have just a minor bit of sculpt work there, and then inside those legs you've got a little bit, I guess, but they're pretty hollow and just not the best looking thing from the back for sure. So he's much better from the front than he is from the back, so no doubt about it. Now, as far as the articulation goes, he's okay. You know, he definitely has his limitations here. There were a lot of sacrifices made to give him a very accurate alt mode. So that is, make no mistake, that is where the strength is with this figure, is in the alt mode. The bot mode is perfectly adequate, but they definitely sacrificed some things in this bot mode in order to make him a beautiful, beautiful H.I.S.S tank. So let's go ahead and get into that articulation, starting with the head. So you get a little bit of down, you get a little bit of up, but it's almost like spring-loaded. It wants to come back down. You can get a little bit of that side to side, but it feels the same way, kind of that spring-loaded, and then you can turn that head all the way around if you choose to do so. All right, and then before we get to the shoulders, let's go ahead and talk about this turret, because the turret is an integral part of the robot mode. So you have this turret and it has the ability to spin. So you can spin that around with a G.I. Joe or Cobra figure in there and operate the cannons. When we put the cannons on, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So over here at the shoulders, you have those shoulder pads that you can get out of the way, and then you can see what you've got going on here. You can take those all the way around, and then you can bring those arms up about that high before they start running into those shoulder pads. And then you do have bicep rotation right there. And then as far as the elbow bend itself, you get 90 degrees of elbow bend with that hard stop right there. So decent amount in the arms. You don't get anything at the wrists, nothing else there present in the arms, but you get a decent amount. You're just going to have to work yourself around those big old shoulder pads. Absolutely nothing at the waist, but if you want to utilize it, I don't think it's meant for this. If you want to utilize it, you do have this transformation joint down here that you can use for an ab crunch. So you can get this guy ab crunched if you want to do that. It's just going to be difficult to keep him balanced, and there's not enough friction here to give him any type of resistance. So just be careful when posing if you're going to utilize that transformation joint. Now coming on down to the hips, so you can slide these out of the way like this and give yourself some room. So as far as the splits go, you're going to get about that far. Let's go ahead and take that other side up and show you there. So not quite a full split, but pretty decent amount for a figure this size. Kicking forward, he does have nice tight ratchet joints. So you're going to kick forward about that far, and then you're going to kick backward about that far. So more of a back kick than a front kick on this guy. You do have thigh rotation, so you can take them out that far and take them in that far. So out that far, in that far. And then down here at the knees, these knee joints on mine are very tight. Not complaining. Just going to do my best to not shake my camera here because it takes a lot of effort. So on those knee joints, you can really get a nice deep knee bend. Now that is due to transformation, but that is one heck of a deep knee bend that you can get on this guy. So no doubt about it, you'll be able to bend that knee as much as you want. Although one would say Megatron would never bend the knee. He's going to now. All right, so down here at the feet, you don't have anything as far as ankle tilt. They just are what they are. You can move the feet. You can close those toes up if you want, and then you can close those heel spurs. Not sure what all that's going to get you, but this one has enough friction it might be able to hold, but I don't think this one does. So that is the limits of your articulation on Megatron. I think looks-wise, when you're looking at him from the front, he's got it. Looking at him from the back, he's pretty weak. And articulation, you're going to be wanting in a few areas, really in those feet. I don't know why they couldn't have integrated some type of ankle tilt in those feet. It would have really gone a long way. Would have been also nice to have something in the hands. And I know, although it would have been very difficult, a waist rotation is always welcome. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and we're going to throw his accessories on there, throw some blast effects on. We're going to bring in a special guest as far as a G.I. Joe figure goes to showcase some of the features of what you can do with this guy in bot mode. Oh man, where was this when I was a kid? This would have been such a blast to have. I'm thankful that it's here. I just feel like it's maybe 30 years too late. Man, I could have had some fun with this. But this just looks phenomenal. I love it. He's not perfect by any means. This whole back area back here, we're not going to talk about it. But everything else, having Megatron as a Cobra H.I.S. tank with the blast effect compatibility is just... I'm over the moon. I love it. And you can see my special guest star up there. That is my original Destro that I've had for a few decades. And he's piloting the turret, and he's shooting one direction. And Megatron's using his fusion cannon the other direction. And they're just fending off G.I. Joe, and they're doing their best to try to vie for world domination as Cobra and the Decepticons would want. We all know eventually they're going to turn on each other. But for now, this looks really cool. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw this guy on the turntable, throw some blast effects on there. Of course, he's holding the shield, and you do have a port up here. We'll see it in vehicle mode as well, but you do have a port right up here where if you want to put the fusion cannon right up there, you can do that instead of plugging it in on the hand of Megatron. But yeah, I'm in love as far as this goes. Not even close to perfect, but it is just enough that I am really, really, really happy about this figure. Definitely glad that I'm able to experience this, although a few decades late. But anyway, there you go. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this guy transformed into his beautiful H.I.S. tank mode. Alright, so let's go ahead and get Megatron transformed into that really cool looking H.I.S. tank mode. Before I begin here, I do want to say this is not a complicated transformation. He's just kind of finicky. I'm going to do my best to catch everything in frame and to show you step by step, and also try not to shake the camera too much, so bear with me as we go through this. He's just a big figure and I'm really far away from him because the camera's in front of me. So let's go ahead and get started. If you have not already taken all of the accessories off of him, go ahead and do that. Get them out of your way. You're not going to need them for the transformation at this point. So bring him in a little bit here, and you're going to take this turret assembly and you're just going to rotate that 180 degrees. You're going to get that set up for the tank mode. And speaking of the tank mode, let's go ahead now and we're going to move this cockpit section up. So let's go ahead and bring that forward. And in doing so, I've actually just done the first step of what I wanted to do. So I'm trying to get you a good view here. You have these tabs that go into the slots on the back of this assembly right here. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this lifted up like this, and then you're going to pull those out. So you're going to lift this, and then you're going to pull that shoulder assembly right there. So you've got those sitting loose. All right. After you've done this, now you have the ability to take this chest and you're going to pull this chest and head assembly forward. So just go ahead and grab that, give that a pull, and that's going to be sitting on a double hinge, and you're just going to bring it out like that. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and get these shoulder pads transformed. I'm going to raise this camera up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So you're going to take these shoulder pads, you're going to lift them up right here on that hinge, just like that. And then you're going to take this piece right here, you're going to bring it up, and then you're going to take it one more notch. So it's angled like that. Then you're going to take this panel right here, bring this panel, swing it out, and then you're going to close that up. So I'm trying to capture it in frame here, so you should have something that looks like that. So let's go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. You're going to lift this up. You're going to lift that up, and then you're going to pull it forward one more notch. Grab that tab or that panel, and then you're going to close that up. And then you have his shoulder pads. They should look something like this. Now take his arms, and you're going to rotate his arms inward and give them a bend so they look something like that. Do the same thing on the other side. All right. Now once you have that, you've got about as much prep work up here done as you need at the moment. So we're going to turn our attention downward a little bit. So before we go any further, you're going to take, let me lower this camera again a little bit. So you're going to take these pieces right here and you're going to swing these up and kind of swing them out. And once you do that, that's going to give you the area that you need right here to bring these shoulders down on these double hinges. And you're just going to bring them down like that. Now, these are going to keep getting in your way. They're going to flop around on you. So they're just going to do what they're going to do. But bring this up, swing that forward, pull this out, and just kind of let that flop. Now you've got him completely exploded up top. We're going to concentrate on those legs. All right, so you're going to take those heel spurs, fold those heel spurs in. And then what you want to do is you want to essentially, if you see him from the side here, you want to essentially put him in a kneeling position, like he's begging for mercy, okay? So these are very tight joints on my copy, so you're going to bend those in and bring those hips out and do something along those lines. All right, and then once you have that, you're going to break him at the waist. So this waist assembly, get all this stuff out of the way. You're going to take that waist and you're going to break it right there. Okay, now I'm going to set him down and I'm going to lower my camera angle so you can see hopefully a little bit better what's going on here. So I'm going to push him forward. So this will be the front of the tank mode. All right, so kind of get all that where he's begging for mercy. And a little bit of a hint here is if you can start seeing everything lining up, you can kind of see what you're going to do with the tank there. All right, so now, there we go, one more notch, bring that down, and now we're going to bring these forward. All right, and as we bring those forward, those arms, we're going to swing. We've got that rotation right there. We're going to swing all that up and do the same thing over here. Should have something that's looking like that. I'm going to lower my camera even more. So you should have something that's looking like that. And now you're just going to want to tuck these arms in, these gaps, right inside the legs. So you're going to take these hands and you're going to put them in where those feet go, and then make sure your little area right here is squeezed together, and then squeeze this together right there. Now there's going to be, once you get the general shape here, there's going to be a lot of pushing and pulling to make sure everything gets tabbed in. Not my favorite way of transforming things, but it once you get him in his position, it works pretty well. So you're going to bring this down, so kind of give yourself that preview of what that's going to look like. And then you're going to bring this forward. When you do, make sure Megatron is out of your way over here. Pull his chest out of the way. So you're going to bring this forward and down. Like I said, making sure everything is out of the way. There we go. All right, so you kind of have something like that going on. Now, this is where you need to use a little bit of force. So you have these tabs and slots right in there. So you're going to need to make sure that you get that shoved up in there. And the same thing on the other side. So this is going to position those legs exactly where they needed to be when I said you were going to have him begging for mercy, kind of that kneeling pose. So then make sure that you've got those tucked away in there just like that. And then you need to connect all this. So you've got two tabs right here, and that go to the corresponding slots. And then you have a tab here on the chest that goes to a corresponding slot on this. So it can be a bit of a pain. And then you also have these slots right here that are going to slide over these tabs on the inside down there. So shove Megatron where he needs to be. And then we're just going to lay the H.I.S. tank on its side. And we're going to tuck those in. And try to line that shoulder tab up. Give that a push. Come over here and do the same thing on this side. So tuck those in. And then that one should have automatically lined up, and it did. That's good. All right, now let's go around and make sure we've got everything squeezed together. So as you can see, you're going to have to do a little bit of pressure with this one here. So give that a nice shove. Takes a little bit of alignment. There we go. Make sure you're aligned over there. And then once you get everything in, I mean, it is locked in tight. So now take your feet, close your feet up. And then the last few things that you need to do is your bit of parts forming. You're going to take that. You've got slots, and you're going to line them up and plug it in. And then you're going to take your guns. And you're going to plug them in each of those holes. And then your fusion cannon, and you're going to plug it in there. And there you have the really cool Megatron H.I.S. tank in his tank mode. And I absolutely adore this mode. No doubt about it. This is where Megatron shines, is in his H.I.S. tank mode. I mean, look at it. This is G.I. Joe H.I.S. tank through and through. Looks really good from every angle. But let's go ahead and dive into it a little bit here. And you can see starting off up here at the top, you know, we do have the fusion cannon up there, and then we've got everything else going on up here. And then you have your cockpit, and bringing up the front here a little bit. You've got some headlights in there, whatever you want to call them. Then you got the 788 on the side, cockpit looking good. You've got all those insignias on there. You've got your Cobra symbol. And coming down, you've got some more information down there, and nice sculpt work in those treads. And you got I guess a smaller symbol of the H.I.S.S tank down there. That's forward, I suppose. It's pretty good. Coming around to the back, also looks good. Make a slight adjustment on my camera so we can get it all in. And you've got a little trailer hitch back there. Now, of course, this is Megatron just hidden underneath there. So if you did want to play a little bit of peekaboo, you certainly could. You could take that off and peekaboo. There he is. Hey, how's it going, bud? And plug that back on. So just a little bit of parts forming there, but it's not real bad. And then you do have just kind of this great kind of look to it with this sculpt work. And then you've got some pegs right there, so you could put some G.I. Joe figures or some Cobra figures. Over here on the left side, looks conspicuously like the right side. Yay for symmetry. And then looking up underneath, so it cleans up pretty well. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of kibble going on here, unless you want to count Megatron's chest, which you can see a little bit of a Decepticon symbol under there. But really, it comes together looking pretty nicely. You can close that trailer hitch if you want, and then of course you have a lot more Megatron chest going on. So that's up to you, but I think it looks pretty good right there. No major complaints. Now let's go ahead and take this stuff off and turn that off to the side, because I do want to show you the inside of that cockpit as well. No different colors, no stickers or anything like that, but you do have a good amount of sculpt work in there. And I really hope that the camera is going to capture that. So you do have a nice spot there where you can put a Cobra figure and get him in there all nice and snug. You've got some good sculpt work in there. So like I say, no doubt about it, this is definitely where the figure shines, is in the alt mode. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll throw some figures on here. And yes, these are Blast Effect compatible, so we'll throw some Blast Effects on there and we'll have a little bit of fun with them and go from there. And here is that Megatron H.I.S.S tank. Fully accessorized with blast effects, with figures, with all kinds of stuff going on. I'm trying to utilize everything you could possibly use in this mode, except for that trailer hitch right back there, because I really couldn't fit another vehicle on my platform there, but you get the idea. But you can see you've got that blast effect compatibility, and this just looks wonderful right here. I guess one thing on my wish list in this mode would have been if you would have had the ability for the main cannon to bring that up or down, kind of on a rotating axis. So you could angle that up a little bit, similar to what you can do with these smaller cannons. But really, it's not that big of a deal. And then, of course, you have, as we mentioned, the pegs back here on this platform. I've got Serpentor utilizing one of those pegs, so he can stand there and command Dr. Mindbender to shoot at people and command Destro to drive toward the Joes to take them out. So yeah, you can totally have some great play with this figure, especially in his alt mode. This is just wonderful. I love it. It's my childhood just come to life again. I can't get enough. So with that, what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and get into those comparisons, and we'll take a look at the Megatron H.I.S.S tank against some other Megatrons and maybe some other alt modes that are out there. Oh, I have to say, I am loving this. I'm loving it. Anyway, for our first alt mode comparison, of course, on the left, we have that Megatron H.I.S.S tank, and on the right, this is my G.I. Joe Mobat tank from 1982. This is what I had, what I played with as a kid, and just had so much fun with this thing. I don't think it runs anymore. It's motorized. I haven't put batteries in it for a really long time. And apologies for the condition. It's a little dusty and it's pretty beat up, but it got played with a lot as a kid. But there we have Duke bringing the Mobat into battle against the H.I.S.S tank. And this just looks right. It just looks good to me. So there you go. Moving on to our next comparison, this is where we're going to start getting into some Megatron tanks. So this first one that we have here is the Titans Return Megatron Triple Changer. Next up is the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Voyager class Megatron in his combat paint scheme. Here we have what is still quite possibly my favorite tank Megatron ever. This is the Leader Class Combiner Wars Megatron in that beautiful silver tank mode. And for our final alt mode comparison, I figured I would do another crossover series Transformers. So this is the Transformers Ghostbusters crossover Ecto 1 Cadillac. Alright, that's it for the alt mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get this guy transformed back into his bot mode and we'll do some comparisons there. Let's go ahead and get Megatron changed back into his bot mode. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and take these weapons off. They're just going to be in your way, so it's easier to just take those off and put them off to the side. Then once you've done that, go ahead and turn this around proactively. And then you're going to come down here to this cover. Just take that cover off, put that off to the side as well. That's really the only parts forming part of this. Now the rest of this is just going to be loosening all these tabs up and stretching him back out. So you can start up here with the cockpit, give that a pop right there so that's loose. And then come down here, you've got these tabs right in this area right here. You're just going to give that a pull. And give this one a pull. And then you're going to disconnect all the tabs that are on these, so give those pulls. And then swing those out. And then you've got Megatron sitting there saying hello. Go ahead and push his trailer hitch chest down out of the way. Now that you have all this loosened up, now you're going to open this up. I'm going to do a slight adjustment to my camera so you can get a better look of what's going on here. So you're going to take this section right here, and you're just going to lift that up. And then you're going to swing that out of the way. And then you're going to do the same thing here. You're just going to lift this area up. And I'm trying to find the best camera angle. Sorry, guys. You're going to lift this area up right here. And then you have his arms right down here. So if you can, pull those out. These are his feet. If you can't, go ahead and just grab those arms from the back. And then that'll pull those feet out for you. But then you're going to take those arms and you're going to swing them up like that. Now, once you have him in this position, all you need to do is just take these pieces right here and you're going to split them right at that center point. And then once you do that, then you can open them up just like that. So you should have something that looks in this approximation. And then go ahead and pull these out. These are on double hinges, so go ahead and pull these out like that. So you've got something that looks similar, I suppose. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to stretch him out. So he has very, very tight joints on his legs. So forgive me if the camera gets a little shaky, and I'll try to keep everything in frame here. You're going to take these legs, and you're going to unbend them at the knee on both sides. And he does get to be a pretty good sized dude, so trying to keep everything in frame here. Trying to do this on camera is always fun. While you're back here, go ahead and pull your heel spurs out. That way you've got some good balance on him. And then once you do that, now you've got him in this position. Now you can swing this entire assembly right there and lock that into place. And now he is standing up. He's a little bit of a half transformed Megatron there. So let's go ahead and bring this camera view up so we can see the rest of what's going on here. So this is not complicated, it's just a little tricky the way the order in which you want to perform these operations. So just be careful about this. So these are his shoulders. You're going to bring these shoulders up. And as you're bringing these shoulders up, you're actually going to bring this piece down and you're going to swing it around. And then you can see that armature right there. You just wanted to make sure that you had clearance for that. So then you're going to go ahead and bring that shoulder the rest of the way up and just let it dangle right there. And do the same thing over here. So you're going to bring that up out of the way, bring this down, and clear that. And then bring the shoulder up the rest of the way. Now, you have some tabs I want you to be aware of here. Now, you have right here on the shoulders, on this side and this side, they correspond to some slots that are right here and right there on the chest. So these are your alignment tabs right there for that. But before you do those, you need to make sure that you have this piece lifted up out of the way so it's not interfering. And you do not want to have these sitting flush yet. You want to have this gap like what I'm showing. So that's why I say it's just a little bit tricky, because you're going to bring that chest assembly up, and then you're going to make sure that it gets tabbed in without anything else getting in the way, and make sure that you're sitting flush. So you want to make sure that you're connecting all that right there. Once you get that tabbed in, which is a bit of a challenge, especially doing this on camera so far away from my own person. So get those in, close them up. There we go. So you get that tabbed in and closed up. Now, looking back here, you have a tab right there that's going to correspond to a slot that's way back up in there. So you're going to close, and then of course you got your tab in your slot right here. So you're going to push those and push those, swing this out of your way, and then make sure that you get all these tabbed in together. That way everything is where it's supposed to be, and Megatron is happy. Nobody likes a grumpy Megatron. So once you get all that, you should have his shoulder assembly relatively well assembled here. And that brings us down to just the final cleanup modes here. So bring that camera up a little bit more, and then we'll take a look at what we're doing right here. So you have, these are eventually going to become his shoulder pads. So if you want, go ahead and bring your arms down now and bring them out. And then for these shoulder pads, I'm going to bring them down like this a little bit. You're going to push that forward right there. Then you're going to swing this in, and then you're going to take this piece right here and you're going to swing that down. And then once you do that, then you swing that shoulder pad down. So you kind of got a before and an after right there. So let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. Let's get that arm out of the way. And I'm going to bring this down so you can see it. So you're sitting there like that. You are actually going to bring this piece forward. It bends right there on that hinge. After you bring that piece forward, then you're going to swing that little panel all the way in. And then after that, it's going to give you the clearance that you need, I'm trying to do this with one hand, to close that up. All right, and then close that down. Last step is to come back here, and you're just going to tuck this away. He does have an incredibly large backpack, but what can you do? All right, and you should have Megatron nice and far away so you can get a full view of him. You should at this point have Megatron back in his robot mode. For our first spot mode comparison, here we see that H.I.S.S tank Megatron next to the Titan's Return triple changer Megatron. Next up, this is the War for Cybertron Siege Megatron. Next up is the Combiner Wars Leader Class Megatron. Since we're talking tanks, this is the Studio Series Megatron from Revenge of the Fallen. For a fellow Transformers crossover comparison, here he is next to the Transformers Ghostbusters crossover Ectotron. And for one final comparison, here he is next to the OG. This is my original G1 Megatron. That's going to do it for the bot mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there you have the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover Megatron H.I.S.S tank figure. And I tell you what, this guy hits all the right buttons when it comes to nostalgia. He misses the mark on a few things. I think some of the engineering, some of the design could have been a little bit better. They could have avoided a few of those cost-saving measures. But man, does he bring back some memories, and they are some fond ones. But let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll start with the overall aesthetics, the overall look of this figure. I'm going to start in bot mode, and I'll tell you that in bot mode, yeah, he's okay. You know, he looks good. I mean, from the front, this is Megatron through and through. I like the fact that he's big and beefy and bulky and just looks mean. And you can use that shield, or that the rear of that H.I.S.S tank for the shield. I like the fact that he's got the turret behind him. Love the fact that you can integrate those G.I. Joe figures with him as well in this mode. From the back, he falls apart. There's just no doubt about it. It's just a huge backpack. I think they could have done a little bit better as far as engineering goes back there, and if they would have shored up some of these hollow areas, I think it would have gone a long way. But definitely, this guy sitting on your shelf with the right pose, he strikes such an intimidating figure on that shelf. I think he's definitely got it as far as bot mode goes, but the alt mode is where he shines. He is absolutely sublime in alt mode. This H.I.S.S tank is gorgeous. As a bit of a sidebar, when I was a kid, I had a G.I. Joe H.I.S.S tank that I blew up with firecrackers in a really fierce battle against the Joes. I lost my H.I.S.S tank. I wish I would have kept it. I wish I wouldn't have made such a silly decision with my toys when I was younger. But this guy brings it back, and he is every bit the H.I.S.S tank that I remember from my childhood. So really cool to see that. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 on overall aesthetics, and the H.I.S.S tank mode is definitely carrying it here. He's gorgeous. I know that's how I'm going to display him, is in that alt mode. He's gorgeous in that. Moving on to the articulation. Yeah, again, he's okay. This is a bot, I think, or a design whose engineering was a few years behind. There's just little creature comforts that we've gotten accustomed to nowadays that are simply not here on this figure. He doesn't have anything at the wrist. He doesn't have any waist rotation, and he has nothing at the ankles, which I think that's the biggest one. That hurts the most. It really does limit that posing ability. You're just going to fiddle with his feet a lot to try to get a good balance and have him as flat-footed as possible to hold a pose. He does come with an ab crunch, and I say that with air quotes. It's really that transformation joint. You can utilize that ab crunch if you need to, but there's not enough friction there to hold it. So unless you've got some kind of a support going, he's just going to flop over on you. So articulation is okay. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 there. Moving on to his accessories, I think they're pretty good. Again, I'm judging this off the price point. I'm judging this from a little bit of nostalgia. If I was looking at it just from the guns, right, I wouldn't have been all that impressed. I mean, they're black molded plastic. You get 2 of them for the turret. You get that fusion cannon, which is painted. They do have blast effect compatibility, which is really cool. But the big one is going to be the fact that he comes with that Baroness action figure inner package, kind of that old school packaging. It looks awesome. As I stated, I'm not going to open her. I'm going to use my trusty stand-ins like a Destro or maybe even a Dr. Mindbender here and there to do what I need to do there. But there's no way I'm going to open that Baroness. But it's so cool that they had her as part of the package. So I'm going to give this Megatron figure an 8 out of 10 on accessories. Moving on to the overall quality. Definitely good quality here. The box looked great. He came with everything that he was supposed to come with. Everything transforms the way that it should. No molding or sculpt work issues. I do have a minor paint transfer issue on that left arm, but it's really not that bad. So overall quality here is very high. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. So moving on to our last bullet, which is overall value. They meaning Hasbro, they are definitely depending on the nostalgia factor here for this price point. I don't think if it was just a Megatron figure without it being that kind of a crossover figure with G.I. Joe with that H.I.S.S tank alt mode, this would be a subpar figure by today's standards. It would not at all command the price point that they put this guy at. But because you do have that nostalgia factor, I do think that there is a level of value here, especially for those out there who are like me, who are maybe, in their mid-40s, give or take, who remember G.I. Joe and had G.I. Joes as a kid, who remember Transformers and had them as a kid, and always wanted to see that crossover. Excuse me. So I think that value is certainly there when it comes to that. Now, that's ultimately going to be up to you, whether you think it's there or not, but for me personally, I think that there is a level of value here. So I picked this figure up from Big Bad Toy Store. This was a pre-order item. I paid $90 US for it. And like I say, if this was just an everyday Megatron, it would not have been worth it. But the fact that he turns into that absolutely sublime looking H.I.S.S tank, totally worth it for me. I have no regrets picking this guy up. So that brings us to our grand total out of 50 possible points. The H.I.S.S tank Megatron gets 40 out of 50, which puts him at 80%. So I'm going to recommend this figure. but I completely understand if some of you just simply don't get it. What's the big deal? Then you have no issue here. Skip him. But if you are a fan of the 80s or grew up in the 80s like I did, I think this figure is going to be almost a must-have. There's just something about having Megatron in that H.I.S. tank mode that is wonderful. It just brings my childhood back to me, no doubt about it. I'm definitely going to enjoy playing with this guy, and I'm really, really digging that H.I.S. tank mode. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information here. I hope you were entertained, and if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave some comments if you feel like it. And if you know of anyone that may enjoy our channel or these videos, please share the video, share the channel with those. Love seeing the channel grow and love getting all that feedback. So with that, that's going to end the review. Until we see you guys in the next one, take care.